So the new Imperial Armour Compendium, which models have made the cut, and which are going the way of legends. Hello and welcome back to Auspex Tactics, the strategy focused 40k channel, where today we're going over the contents page of the new Imperial Armour Compendium, which as you can expect is pretty useful for telling us what's in this book. We've already heard from Games Workshop previously that there will be 191 datasheets in this book, which will aim to cover the entire current range for Forge World models that they sell. Though just by simple maths alone, it does mean that we're losing a lot of datasheets. I believe that there's something around 300 odd Forge World datasheets in circulation at the moment. So needless to say that dropping to less than 200 is going to remove an absolute ton of options from the game. I believe that this is just a continuation of Games Workshop's no model, no rules policy, where they're aiming just to support models that they actually sell, and everything else will get a final datasheet in Legends, and not really be updated from then on. In the video I thought we'd go quickly through what's actually in the book, and a few little interesting changes that I noticed, and then talk about the datasheets that have been left out. As expected, there is quite a list of them. I'm not sure if I've seen every single one. If there's anything I've managed to miss, then please let me know down in the comments. So starting out, here's the first page of the contents. One thing that I thought was interesting is that there's a page of rules for Chapters of Renown and the Death Corps of Krieg. We know that this is where the Death Corps will find their unique regimental doctrine, and I kind of hope that they'll retain their unique orders, and maybe a warlord trait, relic and stratagem will be quite nice as well. I guess we'll see if Games Workshop fancies fitting that into 2 pages. The Chapters of Renown section I suspect will be some sort of clarification on rules for chapters such as Red Scorpions. I'd be surprised at this point if we got any unique chapter tactics for them, but perhaps they might combine 2 of the traits in the successor chapter tactics option and give you those. Really looking forward to seeing the contents of that. The biggest sections of the book are for Space Marines, Imperial Guard and Chaos Space Marines. The Space Marines section has all the special characters that are still in production, and any without a model have been removed. They have their unique vehicles, flyers and super heavies such as the Astrius, and it seems that the relic keyword is now a thing of the past. The previous Forge World rules for relic models is that you had to have another choice of the same battlefield role, otherwise you couldn't field that relic model. For example, for a relic Leviathan Dreadnought, you'd have to have at least one other non-relic heavy support choice in your detachment, otherwise you couldn't take it. Now the only thing that has the relic word in front of it is the relic Contemptor Dreadnought, presumably to differentiate it from the standard one in the Space Marine Codex. For the Grey Knights, they now have a Land Raider Banisher, which I suspect is just the new name for the Grey Knights Land Raider Redeemer, which they do already have. For the Astra Militarum, they have a section for Death Guard, and then the rest of their own unique tanks, support vehicles and super heavies. Probably the biggest amount of losses and cuts have fallen here from old guard kits that are no longer made. The Inquisition only have Hector Rex and Solomon Locke here, no more Land Raider Prometheus. I believe the Custodes have everything that they had before, though correct me if I'm wrong. And for the AdMech, it's only the Secutari and Termite Drill here. They haven't taken the opportunity to add any of the 30k AdMech units to the fold. I'm a bit disappointed by this. This has been something that AdMech players have been wanting for quite a while, as there's not really all that much reason why their battle automata might not have survived the millennia, much in the same way that the Contemptor Dreadnoughts have. I believe we have the full complement of Imperial Knights, and perfectly mirrored by the Chaos Knights who get everything they do but with a Chaos word in front of it. And they also have the rules for the Titan Legions, which I understand I don't think that the full rules for the Titans have ever appeared in one place before. Again, they're directly mirrored by the Chaos Titan Legions. They get all the same that they do for the Warlord, Warbringer, Reaver and Warhound. For Xenos and Chaos in the book, again there have been a fair few cuts to the Chaos line, but they still have the majority of dreadnoughts and vehicles, and they also seem to have gained the Sicarian Punisher, which I don't believe that they had before. Death Guard have the Greater Blight drone. Chaos Demons have Korvax Otterblight, Mammon and Araka. Then the 4 really big Exalted Greater Demons, the ones that cost loads more points than the standard ones. For the Craft Worlds, there's Irilith and the Shadow Spectres, most of their unique vehicles, and the Revenant and Phantom Titans. Dark Eldar have the Reaper and Tantalus. Necrons have their unique vehicles, Pylons and the Seraptic Construct. Orcs have their Squigoths and vehicles, but very interestingly we see the Warboss on Warbag's datasheet here, and one for the Nobs on Warbag. It's really nice that they get acknowledged in print again. I'm sure that the Warboss on the Warbag will be a very popular choice for Orc players. Personally, I prefer them to go the generic route rather than make rules for him as Zardsnark the Ripper, which I know that the same kit has been sold as in the past. Finally, for Tau we have Shazo Relay and the Hazard suits, also the Flyers, heavier battle suits and the Taunar, and Tyranids largely remain intact. I believe only the Strikes went missing. So now let's get on to the models that didn't make it through the cut. Again, basically all of these are models that Games Workshop sold at one point, though some never had any official model whatsoever. And on the Warhammer community page, they did say that anything that's missing will get Legends rules at some point. I think it's quite nice that they throw them a bone that way, so at least you can use them in games, even if not at the high end of competitive tournament play. The majority of these we had hints of that they were going away with no points in Chapter Approved 2020, which did imply that they weren't being considered part of the current game. So while I'm sure a lot of this won't come as a surprise to some people, there are a few other things that seem to have disappeared. Firstly, as we have talked about before, the entire Elysian line and Renegades and Heretics line have both been dropped. Very sad for people who have been collecting forces of these guys. No Elysians will make guard armies just that little bit more homogeneous and not as different as they were before. And the Renegades and Heretics line, while a lot of the units didn't ever have official models, they have lost some really fun options for Chaos Cultist type armies in 40k, and some really cool units such as Plague Ogrins. I strongly suspect Elysians won't be coming back. Maybe Games Workshop might make a Renegades and Heretics line at some stage. They did make some very nice sculpts for Blackstone Fortress, so it would be quite nice to see them realised as a full plastic army. It's not like they haven't been part of the lore for a very, very long time. For Space Marines, units that didn't make it through include the Chaplain Venerable Dreadnought, the staple of the tournament scene of late 8th edition, the Mortis Dreadnought with its 2 ranged arms, the Contemptor Mortis, which I believe you'll have to field under the Relic Contemptor datasheet now, the Whirlwind Hyperios, the Cestus Assault Ram, and the Thunderhawk Transporter. There are some other units missing, I believe, including many special characters without models, all of which will now be going the way of Legends. In general though, if it's still sold by Forge World, then it made it through. The Guard and the Death Corps suffered some of the heaviest losses. We mentioned this yesterday, but the Death Corps Infantry Squad will likely use the Standard Guard Infantry Squad now. They don't have their unique datasheet with Weapon Skill 3 anymore, otherwise they've lost a bunch of iconic options, the Quartermaster, the Grenadier Stormer Squad, I guess you could use Scions now I suppose, Caris Venner, the Centaur Carrier, Death Rider Commissars, and the Mars Alpha Lehman Russ. Lots of options gone I'm afraid, but I am hoping that in return, Games Workshop will allow the Death Corps to use the rest of the Guard Armoury. They've been kind of locked out to a bunch of very limited options before. Besides the Death Corps, there are a ton of guard kits that aren't made by Forge World anymore. The enormous Gorgon Transporter will be missed, as will Sabre platforms, and certainly the variants of the Lehman Russes, the Annihilator, Styges Vanquisher and Conqueror will all be sadly missed. I'm very sorry to see these ones go. They were quite nice to give you different options, and you could field them very easily as simple conversions. Griffins have gone to Legends now, a really old Games Workshop kit that I've acquired several of over the years. Probably the biggest single loss for my guard force in this change. Also the Griffin patterned Chimera, Macarius Omega, the Stormhammer, the Tauros variants, Salamander tanks, the Artemia pattern Hellhound, and the static versions of the Hydra and Manticore emplacements have gone. As I said, I've tried to include as much as I could see of these. I'm sure that there's probably more that are missing. I've only just noticed that Powerlifter Sentinels are also not on the list either, so please let me know down in the comments if you see anything else. Moving on, as we said before, the Inquisition have lost their Land Raider Prometheus, the one with the quad heavy bolters. As Land Raiders went, it was actually a reasonably efficient choice in my opinion, and you could do some very silly shenanigans with Kotiaz's I've been expecting you to gun things off the table from a long way away. It seems that the Sister of Battle Repressor has finally bit the dust as well. I'm sure there'll be plenty of people who aren't so happy about that. It was a very cool little Rhino variant. Chaos Space Marines have lost the Ferrous Infernum and Sonic Dreadnoughts. Demons have lost Plague Toads and Plague Hulks. There's no more Necrosius the Undying for Death Guard, I'm afraid. And it seems that Zufo, Samus and the Giant Spawn are also missing. The Eldar Craftworlds seem to be missing the Wasp Assault Walker, the Vampire Hunter and Raider, and the Corsair Falcon and Venom. Necrons have lost their unique named special characters, Kutlak and Tohawk, though I think that all their vehicles and special units remain untouched. Orcs got by largely unscathed. The biggest casualty was the Chinook Warcopter, which I was quite sorry to see, as it's really quite a fun unit and was quite an interesting alternative to the Truck. Finally, Tau have lost a few of their kits that are no longer in production, the Orca, Shaz O'Ramir, the variant XV8 Commanders and XV81 and XV84, the TX7 Hammerheads, heavy gun drones and the fortifications of their drone sentry turret and remote sensor tower, and the Tyranids have lost their Tyranid Shrikes, the warriors that had the wings. Another quite sad one to see go. I know they've been around quite a long time and have often been a tempting choice over standard warriors. So lots of cuts from the more competitive and current game, lots of things going to Legends, though honestly not too many things that I wasn't expecting already. I think it is good that they get those Legends rules out, as it will mean that people can continue to play their models at a more casual level, and I'm really looking forward to digging through the datasheet changes once we have them in our hands. So let me know what you think of the book. Are there any units that you're sorely going to miss going forward into 9th, or is slimming down the enormous number of Forge World datasheets to something a bit more manageable not the worst thing in the world? If you've enjoyed the video, then feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics. I'll certainly be hoping to look at the book in a bit more detail when we have it, so subscribe or check back later if you'd like to see that. Finally, if you have been enjoying my videos and you'd like to help support the channel, then I do have a Patreon page which you can find linked down in the video description below. Making all of these videos does take a fair amount of time, so if you're enjoying regularly, then any support is massively appreciated. Channel patrons get a few advantages, such as seeing videos early, regular votes on what sort of things come next on the channel, and also entry to the regular prize draw that we hold once a month. If any of that sounds good, or you'd just like to help support the channel, then the link is down in the video description below. In any case, a massive thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.